His head full of it.
Always. All those.
And he
Do not
called me
disturb.
on purpose on Friday, just so that happened, and it did happen.
Like the way this Thomas line. He's the email me. He'd be up there. He's with you. Next. No.
Waiting on me, right?
Truth be told.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the wall, I'd like to call to order the February 1st, 2023 meeting for Salford Township Supervisors. If everyone could join me, for pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
Thank you. Great. One day. In all.
Brings us to our second agenda item, which will be the appointment of a new township supervisor. But before we do that, I just want to once again thank the 7 became 6 that actually interviewed, that applied. I think we had very good candidates. I think the 4 of us had a bit of a challenging decision. At the end of the day, we became of like minds, I think, and chose someone who's going to serve the township, the community very well. Ken Krauss, welcome, welcome aboard. And with that, we should. So I'd like to make a motion and nominate Ken Krauss as the next Lower Salford Township Supervisor.
Second that nomination.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Now, with that, we're going to do a swearing in. So
Who do you want to hold the
for
Bible?
whom would you like to have hold the Bible?
It makes you work for it.
Father hold the Bible.
That's good.
Yes, we're still.
Thank you.
Former township supervisor here. All right, you put your right hand on the Bible.
Right.
Put your right hand, put your left hand on the Bible, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Kent Krauss,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of supervisor
the duties of supervisor
in Lower Salford Township,
in Lower Salford Township,
Montgomery County,
Montgomery County,
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
With that, congratulations.
The rest of the family up there will get a picture with the seal.
Just wanted to take a quick minute to thank everybody for coming and thank you for all your support. I couldn't do that without this crew, so
Right.
they let me do this stuff.
Love you.
Well, to Photoshop your picture in there, Jen.
Again, congrats.
You say state name. That's the hard part.
Sure.
Welcome.
All right, and as we do every evening meeting, I'm going to open the floor up to public discussion. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to be recognized?
Chairman, I just want to say on the record again, thank you to all the candidates who applied. Well, again, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Very nice. All right, moving on. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So move. Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Say
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? It's happening. Committee reports, zoning hearing board, Michael.
There are no zoning hearing board applications.
None, very good. Park board, Holly is on vacation, so we will defer that one.
The chairman.
to The chairman of the park board. So quickly it moves.
The park board agenda from last month was exciting. We had a representative from adjoining property to the parkside land with open space currently unslotted for any activities. Would like to see tennis and or pickleball courts out there. At the Alderfer Park, we have a new story walk installed, so check that out. And we are planning joint meetings with the members of the Historical Society, probably in a quarterly type regular schedule. And we're looking forward to the many new projects that are going to take place in the parks this year. We're going to have a new surface to the hockey rink, a rain garden at the community center, a permanent pickleball court at Reed, security cameras going in all the parks, and laminated maps going on all the park kiosks. The next meeting will be February 28th at 7 p.m.
Very nice, excellent. Very good, thank you, Ken. Fire chief, Ryan. How are you this evening?
All right. A slow start to the year for us. We only had 17 calls, 10 a day, 7 at night, 10 fire alarms, 2 gas leaks, 1 building fire, 1 vehicle rescue, 1 backup service. We had 14 lower Salford, 1 at Franconia, 1 in Tom Menson, 1 at Skipback. We had a total personnel of 147, 8.6 per call. We're in service for 10 hours, 50 minutes, 33 seconds. Not much going on over there right now, just cold at the beginning of the year. So a couple line changes for my officers, which is always exciting, but just another month going at it.
Steady as she gets.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, man. See Don Lynch.
Not be here.
From Freedom Valley. We have the report. If anybody wants to view it, they can certainly stop by the township. Have a look.
Get that, I'll just watch this a little bit.
I think I'm gonna take him out because this is his normal time.
All right.
And then you can take.
Very good. The communications committee, yeah,
Thank you.
Aaron, sure.
The Communications Committee continues to explore new ways to improve communications between the township and its residents. We are excited to announce that our meetings will now be uploaded to YouTube and accessible to residents to view at their leisure via a link on our website. We encourage all residents to please take a moment to complete our township survey. You can find the link to the survey on the township's website. The committee is looking forward to reviewing and discussing the results of the survey at our next meeting. Our next meeting will be taking place here at the Township Building on February 15th at 7:30 p.m. You can also participate via Zoom. We encourage all residents and business owners to attend. And again, that's February 15th. I noticed on the agenda, it says December 15th. We're going to have it in February. Thank you.
Good point. Very good. Recreation Authority report falls to me, I guess. So last week, we didn't meet in the month of January, but we did receive the financials for the year end December 2022, and I'm here to tell you that they had a very good year at the golf course. Some $656,233 in the EBITDA with for a budget of $320,408. So while last 2022 was good, not quite as good as 2021, which was $863,000, but still a banner year. So hopefully the trend continues and that when the weather's good, the golfers come out. That is all I have for that. We will meet, I guess, here coming up in January. February 23rd. All right. Unfinished business. Main Street sidewalk and shared use project. TASA project update, Ms. Butler.
Thank you very much.
So-
Here tonight just to do a brief presentation on the SR 53 section MRS project. It is the Main Street Road Sidewalk Trail Project. So tonight, just a brief introduction on the project. Part of the reason for this presentation is because of the funding source, we are required to do a public presentation earlier on in the design phase. So the project sponsor is indeed Lower Salford Township. Myself as the project manager from McMahon. And we have NTM Engineering as our sub-consultant who is handling the environmental clearance. You'll see DVRPC and PennDOT on there. Joe Natal is their project manager. We do have to do everything through PennDOT with PennDOT oversight as a result of the funding source. As I mentioned, it is federal funding through the Transportation Alternatives Set Aside Program. This presentation will be available on the website too, and there's more information on the funding source, but it is federal dollars, which for construction, which requires a certain project delivery list with PennDOT oversight. But that source is primarily for trail connections, sidewalk connections, also safe routes to schools. But that's the type of project that this funding source provides. You'll see the link on this slide, but there is a link to more information on that program. The township has had projects through this program in the past that have provided sidewalk connections in various locations. So the highlights are the limits of the work are from the Quarry Road intersection with Main Street up to the Ruth Road intersection, sidewalk construction on one side of the road. And then there is a segment of trail construction that will be on the Pheasant Run property, linking them to this connection. It's about 820 feet of sidewalk. So it's about 820 feet of sidewalk with minor roadway widening and curb to make it a consistent section. For those in the public, this is the area between the Wawa intersection and the road. There will be some drainage features and some modifications to the traffic signal at the Ruth Road intersection. And other than that, it's fairly straightforward as far as there'll be some signs that need to be relocated. And then there is the shared use path segment, which is on a Pheasant Run property. That's going to be roughly 300 feet out of a 10-foot path width that will connect that into the existing path and then across the Ruth Road intersection. So here is essentially the image from Quarry Road intersection up to Ruth Road, and then the small segment over here at the Pheasant Run property. All work is within the PennDOT and or the township legal right of way along Main Street. And there is an existing township trail easement on the Pheasant Run property, which will be the area of work where the trail is happening. There's also a couple of existing temporary construction easements, but those are only the let's see. Environmental clearance, this is part of the preliminary engineering phase. It's called the categorical document. Our environmental stuff has been out there. There's really no significant environmental features that we have to be concerned about. We are waiting on one confirmation or review of any sensitive waste in the project limits with the gas station that's on the corner. Technically, it's in the project limits, so we are waiting for a decision made on that. And we also have to wait for the PennDOT environmental unit just to confirm that there's no it's potentially eligible historic properties. Anything over 50 years has to be evaluated to be potentially historic. But again, we're not expecting any structures like that, so this will be pretty straightforward.
Just going through the process.
We're going through the process. That takes a little. Let's see, project schedule. So what we're in preliminary engineering, we're really what's controlling that phase is the environmental clearance document, waiting for that approval to happen. Final design will roughly start around here, and we really do need to be finished by August of 2023 with the final design. And a lot of it's going to be process driven. The design is pretty straightforward, but this is what takes a little bit of time with the federal level. And then we look to September of 23 for advertisement, bidding, and construction. And I have a year here to get through the entire process. The project really won't take that long to build, but again, this is what dictates. I do have an exhibit that is available on the township website. The brief summary and exhibit for people to look at. There's also some handouts at the front desk. This is a little hard to see. I apologize with the screen and the lighting, but these are the preliminary construction plans. The blue is essentially the sidewalk construction. The yellow is an area of minor roadway widening and curve that has to happen just to make it a consistent section. Again, the blue runs up to the Rouge Road intersection. And then finally, the section of trail is on Pheasant Run property, and I promise these are much more easy to see. On the PowerPoint slide up close and in the exhibit, so we'll make sure that this PowerPoint is also posted to the website. So with that, that's essentially it. That's the reason. Take any questions.
On the two of the property, there's see note 1 about business signs. There are 2 business signs that the sidewalk is going to run directly through or just through. I'm assuming we're not just going to carefully remove the business sign, associated lighting, and neatly pile it on the owner's property as it says, but have a conversation ahead of time.
This particular can't necessarily replace those signs. Is that
Right.
the signs are in the room today? They need to be outside of the room.
And I'm just suggesting that we'll notify them ahead of time so they can remove them ahead of our project rather than disassembling them. Okay. And the segmented block wall in front of Weaver Rector, how high is that retaining?
So
Just to cut into that hill, just to start, okay. Yeah,
everything.
and who brings that wall afterwards?
That will all be part of this project, which is going to be the townships.
Okay, just so that even though it's, you know. Well, that's what I'm saying, because I mean, typically the sidewalk or anything in front of a property, even if we install it, would be their responsibility for long-term maintenance. So I just, if we can make sure we're clear on that. Yeah. And it would be, once it's in, it'd be the property owner's responsibility to clear for snow and things of that nature in the future. Okay, very good.
Overall cost of the project? Did you say that? My sheet says something to the tune of $985,000.
The construction funding awarded to the TASO funds. And $985,000. I will say that the latest estimate that we just shared last week with all of the latest unit costs and contingencies. Right now, we are looking at a total project cost with all of the other PennDOT incurred costs that we have to add in. $974,600. So if everything with the timing of everything, we should be good. Given again, every month is different. So don't use
This is a reimbursement grant.
this is actually not a reimbursement grant. This is a agreement that the township has already entered into with PennDOT. What will happen is once this cost is incurred, each time the contractor submits a payment, they will submit to PennDOT for approval of the payment comes in, and then the township has to pay the contractor within the period. So it technically is a reimbursement, but it doesn't operate, the township does not have to outlay funds before they get different than the other programs. But, we've done with this one, there's a grace period to get paid.
Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Steph.
You've done with this. I know, as we have Wawa on there, fast food, we have more and more foot traffic that we see on this road all the time, and this will use that. I think it'll serve a lot of people, especially with that connection to Pheasant Run.
It's been a long time coming.
It has, it's
It's a long time coming.
Several projects.
Yeah.
So it's good. All right, anything else? Moving right along, 991 Luton Road, this is the Chinmaya Mission Land Development Extension Request. There's someone here from Chinmaya.
Yeah, my name is Harry. I'm from Chinmaya, Philadelphia region. And we are the members, local bodies. We have 4 centers, one in Yardley, one in Langhorne, and one in Malvern. And the last one is here in Hull. So we started, so we got that plot sometime and then, we started, like a land development sometime in 2018. And because of the pandemic, everything got disturbed and we lost a lot of membership. So what we are asking for is remaining another 1 year so that there's some more work to be done on the land development. Most probably we planning to address that sometime spring somewhere. That's where we want to add something to it from the proposal.
Yeah, after the pandemic, we started our children and adult classes again. We are now actually renting the facility at the senior center in Harlesville. So we see quite a bit of impact on in-person membership. And that's where we are coming here to request an extension so that the members come back and our revenues come back and we'll be able to complete the development work and begin construction.
Yeah. I just like you, I didn't may have, your intention would be to start this summer again, you're hoping, or is it next summer?
This spring.
This spring to summer of 23?
The current extension expires on February 19th,
Yeah.
right?
I have no issue.
Yeah, I don't-
Spending.
For a year or 2 years is the question. I mean,
One other question, what is the financial security?
They have escrow with that.
I mean, cash, escrow, so we don't have to deal with a bank.
I don't know that it's cash escrow, it might be a letter of credit.
Yeah, we have a line of credit, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're gonna need to see a new line of credit because I'm sure your existing line of credit expires February 19, 2022.
Bank, I think that what happens is it get automatically renewed, so he told me it's already renewed.
Okay, well,
I'll
they
make
have to,
sure that,
well, it's
just
just,
tell them to make sure to contact our office because otherwise, when February 18, 2022, we'll call the line of credit.
get it done before.
do we know if it's a line of credit or a letter of credit? A letter of credit, which probably is your evergreen.
That's letter of credit for, I think, about 208,000.
And the remaining work, as you said, it needs to be done when the building's built, and then you can top coat it, finish up you're doing. The question comes down to even if they were to start this spring, I'm not sure they'll be wrapped up in 1 year. Do we just do 2, or do we have to come back again next year for?
That's why we
review?
asked.
Well, how long is a letter of credit?
They're evergreen technically, or they have evergreen language in it based on the agreement.
Okay, we mentioned under, I think, last year as well. I don't mind 2 years as long as that's.
Not a problem, 2 years either. It does give us an opportunity to see them again and see where they're at.
Yeah. Say 2 years. Yeah. I would make a motion to approve the extension of the land development financial security agreement for the Chinmaya mission through a date of February 19th, 2025.
So moved, do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you again.
Good luck.
Next up is the Oldifer Road, Park Avenue Basin Retrofit Project authorization to advertise for new bids. As I understand it, the project has been value engineered
It has,
of sorts to,
by some professionals.
all good.
I don't know about that.
So we'd like to advertise the new and improved project to bid. So do I have a motion to authorize that advertising?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Moving right along, next up is the resolution 2023-03 Mainland Point RV then Popeyes land development approval, final master plan and final plan phase 6. So that's as is customary, are we ready, Michelle?
We are, there was a approval resolution that was prepared by Mr. Garrity's office. It was reviewed by the developer's engineer who's on Zoom. And by township staff, and we are okay with the resolution.
Joe, I remember from the conditional use hearing, there was some discussion, I'm forgetting the sequence of the pads, Taco Bell then Arby's, I think it was, but with regards to a sidewalk crossing with that, with the drive-through area, and there's just some conflicts of certain areas on there. Has that all been resolved on the plan? Okay, circulation pattern's good, the trash enclosure is where it needs to be.
You like,
You're gonna comply on all your reviews as well. I did see the plan.
Yes,
And this is the final pads, right? Or do we have one more? Is it the one more on the other side?
I think so.
Rick? Last ones.
This is it?
Yes.
That's under construction. Brian. Is that, oh, it is under construction.
Right.
Yeah, that's
All right.
sounds good to me. Yeah, that one's out of the park, so to speak. All right, so do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-03?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Moving right along, new business. Resolution 2023-04, which is the 702 Camp Walwell Road final plan lot line adjustment.
yes, we are similarly, there is a approval resolution that has been drafted, and this is a much simpler lot line adjustment between two properties, and we're good to go.
Property owner is same on both properties. You just
Makes it helpful.
that helps. I would make a motion to approve a lot line adjustment for 702 Camp Walwell Road per resolution number 2023-04.
So moved, and second,
Second.
moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Very good.
Have a good evening.
Yes, very good. All right, next up is resolution 2023-05, authorizing submission of a grant application for the 2023 round of Monco 2040 implementation grant program. My Lord, that's a mouthful. So, Steph, I presume that you're involved with that.
Yes, this is the 2023 Monco 2040 grant. We are submitting or planning to submit for the two school flashers. on Moyer Road and Maple Avenue. If you recall, we did submit school flashers for an Arley grant last year, but it was not approved. We did reach out to the county with regard to the Monco 2040 program and confirmed that school flashers are eligible for this program. We had a follow-up meeting with Ann at the county last week where we talked about the scope of the project and cost and what we were submitting for a grant, and she was quite favorable about the project. She did ask that the county is aware of our sidewalk committee work, and we talk about that and make sure that any placement of the school flashers on Moyer Road would accommodate in the future site. If that project were to be put in place, so that is all included in the application. And we are requesting a grant amount of $148,000. And that includes a local match of $37,000, which meets their 20% requirement. For a total project cost of $185,000 for both. Grant due March 1st.
Excellent. Excellent. So with that, any questions at all? Otherwise, do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-05, authorize the submission of the grant?
So moved.
Moved and a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Very good. Thanks, Steph.
Good one.
That was a great one. All right, next up, ordinance 2023-01, which is repealing the fee schedule for building and zoning applications, authorization to advertise. And I think, Mike, you were involved with this one.
Yes, so what this does, it would repeal the limited amount of building zoning fees that are located in chapter 84 and replace them with the fee schedule, which consolidates all of the fees that we have that are existing into one fee schedule. And then also some amendments and or additions to that fee schedule. The lion's share of these fees were already existing and they are consolidated into one.
One fee schedule consisting of about 16 pages.
Nailed it.
Good Lord.
Did this then say Mike repealing and replacing?
No, because it would be, the fee schedule would be by resolution, not by.
And then each year we'll adopt a new one in January with our reorg.
We just want to pass an ordinance every day.
Sounds good to me.
Mike, I had one question. I had to look over all the fees again. And do we have any kind of thing in place? Talk about later possibly as well. Let's say, for example, I think the 100 for a generator. Do we have something, say somebody has a medical emergency, they could get waivers possibly on some of the fees for like emergency generators and such?
That's never come up specifically for emergency generators, but we do have the situation where if you have an emergency, say sewer repair that needs to occur, they can go ahead and make that sewer repair or the roof replacement because of the active leak. But they still need to supply the township with an application. The application needs to be approved and they need to still pay for it.
Okay, you think, Kevin, with it going from an ordinance to a resolution, right, that would be then fortunately within our discretion to waive as a resolution versus an ordinance, which we wouldn't have the same flexibility with. Right, so we can try to put a hardship case.
That's kind of how I saw that in there, but I just wanted that, and we can talk about that later. Thank you. That's all I have.
Sure. So with that discussion, do I hear a motion to approve ordinance 2023-01?
I would change that to an authorization to advertise ordinance 2023-01 for our hearing at our next meeting.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Go with advertising. Ordinance 2023-01.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nice have it. All right, moving right along. Next up, 841 Main Street, SCK2 Group LLC at Burnfield. Preliminary final development discussion of waivers. I see Susan writes, for full disclosure, I am financially involved in that development, so I am going to recuse myself from the discussion.
Hi.
Hi, Susan.
Susan Rice with STA Engineering on behalf of the applicant, here to discuss waiver requests. You should have a letter in front of you dated November 1st, as amended December 12th. That amendment came after we received review letters from constituents. We've addressed the comments in those letters that we would comply with, and then these are the remaining outstanding items that will need waivers for.
Susan, just so before we go through any of the individual ones, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the planning commission did review all these waivers. Have they recommended all these waivers?
They did not provide a recommendation, but they also did not object to any of them.
Okay, so there's no opposition to any of the waivers.
Yeah, correct. And I think, are we all familiar with the project, the 6 twin, 2-family dwellings proposed residential, 1 existing residential to remain, and then an office building in the back corner proposed.
And stormwater management is in an underground basin under the parking lot and towards the front of the property to the left.
There are 2.
Okay,
Beside, in the front of the parking lot, underground, and then to the right of the existing dwelling, there's a rain garden.
And it was moved, I'll say it was moved outside of the right of way, which we asked the applicant to do.
And the building setback line as well. It's not in the front yard at all.
it's pleasure of the board to go through each one of these, or do you want to, we can work our way through. There are a total of 13 of them, or we could ask questions of specific ones. Obviously, we're not voting on them tonight. We're just giving a sense if there's an issue with any of them from the board.
I'd be okay with going through each one of this.
Okay.
It's kind of.
Do the number of 14231K, which requires intersection spacing on principal arterials, be 800 feet. You're in the village of Burnfield, so the existing driveway is located 197 feet, the intersection of Covenant, and 158 feet from Covenant Lane. No location of approach would meet that, correct?
Correct.
And this is, well, technically a new intersection. It's a driveway access. It is not another roadway. Anybody have any issues with the waiver? Stephanie and Michelle, no objection. I'll keep going through them until someone stops me. 14233A and B, which requires a 300-foot site triangle on each leg of the proposed access onto the principal arterial. Waiver request to allow a leg into the site along the proposed driveway to measure 75 feet as recommended by the township traffic engineer, instead of the required 300 feet, which is a standard waiver request. And I see it in their next application as well. Okay.
Correct.
Any objections? Amend the ordinance. Yeah. There's a couple of them on here that I've seen that is repetitive until Saldo is updated. Requires driveway slope to be less than 4% within the right of way. This is 6% due to the existing grades. Are there any objections?
6%, is that going to be for the whole driveway?
No, it's for a certain distances, but I would say that the revised plan that we reviewed does show that it meets the dependent requirements for a grade breakout and the slope is.
It's actually a little less than 6% as well.
The profile looked acceptable to me as far as meeting.
And that's well less than the 8% allowable radius. Great.
It's allowed, but it doesn't get a little more effort.
But yeah, in a driveway versus the sidewalk, right? Got it. 14242C5, which requires replacement trees to be planted on site as they will not all fit due to disturbance. There is a fee in lieu of $20,000 proposed for the deficiency. That's been, Michelle, that's been worked out, the fee in lieu of.
Yeah,
Okay.
the fee that we have
Used in the past.
Correct.
Any objections?
Is that I know there's 205 for sure.
Caliper wrench.
Caliper. Again, I just kind of price it them. Do you think that's a fair assessment? The price. That-
on the township side.
142-42 D2B, which requires the planting strip to be 15 feet wide. Waivers to allow a planting strip to be 12 feet wide at the narrowest location along the rear property line. Required plantings are still provided, and the adjacent property is wooded along the entire property line. So it's not a waiver for the plantings, it's just a waiver for the width of the strip.
Correct.
Of 3 feet less. Any issues? 142-42E3A, which requires street trees to be planted in a minimum of 5 feet and a maximum of 15 feet from the ultimate right-of-way line. A waiver is requested to allow the required street trees to be planted within the front yard setback and further than 15 feet from the ultimate right-of-way line. Due to existing features to remain in the required site distance, the trees cannot be planted where required by ordinance. But the
Slight triangle.
Slight triangle.
Gives out a lot of area.
okay,
And we are providing the number of trees.
Yeah. Just locate, it's just a waiver for location, not number.
Correct.
Right. Any issues? Nope.
No.
Very good. 142-42F2D1, which requires stormwater management facilities to have a maximum of 4-to-1 side slope. Waiver requested for side slopes for the proposed rain garden at 3-to-1 maximum. These are privately held and be maintained by the property owner, correct?
Correct.
No issues. Is that being addressed in our Saldo review?
Oh.
Stormwater, yeah, that we will allow steeper slopes than before. The 4-to-1 is sort of archaic at this point. 142-35C, which requires an additional 2 feet of sidewalk in a parking lot where cars extend on the sidewalk. The waiver is requested to allow a standard 5-foot sidewalk in these locations. Curb is provided and will prevent excess overhang. If a car overhangs 2 feet, there will be 42 inches of sidewalk. 7-foot sidewalk will unnecessarily add to impervious surface on this. I believe this is relatively standard practice for the 5-foot adjacent to it.
It is, and if there isn't a curb along the edge of it, we normally ask for curb stops, but now we have curb, so that's not necessary.
Okay. Any issues? Yeah. 142-42C3, which requires replacement trees to be selected from the shade tree plant list. A waiver is requested to allow replacement trees to be evergreen, to provide a portion of the required replacement trees while providing more of a screening from the existing basic building, but the substitution of material.
Stated in
I have no issue with that, anybody? 142-43, which requires street trees to be shade or canopy trees in accordance with planting list A1. A waiver is requested to allow 3 of the 7 required trees to be evergreen trees, specifically Norway spruce, in order to provide some additional buffer along Main Street. There is a limited space available along the frontage of the canopy or shade trees due to the entrance drive and required site triangle. So this will give a better mix of trees instead of it being all deciduous trees clumped together.
Correct.
I have no issue with that. Anybody? Kevin? Good, okay. 142-42F3, which requires a type 1 or type 6 site element screen for the rain garden. Waiver is requested to not provide the required buffer because the rain garden is located adjacent to the property line that abuts a farm field with no buildings within more than 500 feet of the property line. Additionally, the rain garden has a small footprint. It's just 3 feet deep and will be planted with trees and shrubs that will have minimal visual impact on the adjacent downstream property. Joe, any issue with that?
appropriate.
So basically, because of the way it would be planted, a buffer is probably not necessary from it because it'll look like a depressed garden when it's all done. That's the theory.
Save as well.
Okay. No issues. 142-42G5, which requires vines planted at 8-inch on center along 3 sides of an opaque fence to screen the trash enclosure. Waiver is required because the trash enclosure and opaque fence are located within the parking lot on a concrete pad. Vines cannot be planted as required. I didn't even know we had this required.
And it stayed in there, so maybe it's something we have to revisit.
Well, I just from a standpoint, I don't really think, but that's a terrible thing for property maintenance. That just destroys fences. Interesting. Okay, I don't have any issue. Do you have any issue with it?
We're just discussing the waivers, not the trash location.
Not the location, just the waiver itself. It's actually just the vine growing up on a fence. Yeah. Last one is LSTES, section 107-2D, which requires a minimum pipe size of 18 inches. This would allow pipe sizes of 8 inches at the rain garden outfall to restrict outflow and 12 inches to the pipe entering the pipe underground basin. I would assume this is an engineering waiver. It's appropriate for the size of the facilities. Yeah. Any objections?
Is that this one, in relation, I know there was some concerns and one review with potentially creating dangerous road conditions. This affect that at all?
It would be towards the driveway or towards the property.
Thank you.
Good. All right, well, there's no objections to any of the waivers. We will move on to next item. Back to you, Mr. Bergman.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks, Susan.
And they're gonna be. Thank you for everybody in the audience. They all get to know what's going on. I can do it again too. I like that. Really like it.
Very good. So moving on, letter E, 25 Fretz Road, Almac, preliminary / final land development discussion of waivers. Seems to be the night.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Mazika. I'm with Barry Ice Associates. I'm project manager and civil engineer. I'm here also with Jim Corrigan from Almac. And yeah, we appreciate your time tonight. And I was fortunate to be the engineer for the original project back in 2006, 2008. So we're privileged to be working on this expansion project, which consists of about 113,000 square feet addition to building 2 on the property, which is on the northern side of the property. And if you may recall, the original project or headquarters project included a phase 2 parking lot and a driveway on the western side of the wetlands. So that was never constructed. And now that we're proposing a building addition, which is going to replace some of the parking spaces, we're now proposing to build that parking lot plus additional spaces on that western side. So you can see on the plan there, upper side parking areas, what we call F and G, are basically going to provide a net increase of 167 spaces on the property. The project also involves a driveway on the northern side of the property to access Womble Road. A widening of the existing driveway in the middle of the site along Womble Road to allow for potential 2-way traffic.
It'll be a right in, right out. Just the current, I think, right.
It's right now, it's currently proposed to remain as emergency entrance in.
Okay.
With the right turn out. However, one of the conditions recommended by the planning commission was to do a post occupancy traffic study to see if it warranted that right turn in. So that's, we agreed to that. We also have a number of walkways proposed around the site to create some pedestrian loops around the campus. And we also have a pedestrian bridge, a 40-foot clear span bridge crossing the wetlands right there between the parking lots, lined up with what is going to be the main staff entrance at the connection of the proposed building with the new building or the existing building.
Well, that can't be cheap.
No, and in fact, if you recall, the original project had that bridge proposed further south.
Way like down below the wetland.
Right, that's where the wetlands were much narrower. Since that time, in the last 15 years, when we reevaluate the wetlands, and a gap has actually opened up in the center area. And it's actually got wider down at that southern end. But after reviewing many options, we felt the best option was to go right across, line up from the staff entrance. We're actually elevating the driveway, right, an elevated crosswalk, so pedestrians have the right of way. There's no tripping hazard. Step down, maybe stop signs on either side. So that's effectively acting as a speed hump, slow down traffic too. Yeah. So this project also requires an expansion of the utility yard, which is on the western side of the existing building. So there'll be some modifications there, a lot of utility relocation. We have stormwater management. We have some credit from the original water reuse system. And we also have underground storm tank detention systems just on the east side of parking area at So that's the general summary of the project. And we did receive recommendations for conditional approval from the planning commission in December. And that also includes the requested waivers and deferrals that,
They recommended all these. Yep,
yes, we have in front of you tonight.
And that's the letter of November 9.
Yes.
Jerome?
Yeah, I mean, if you,
I think it's good for the public. What are animal again? Last Jim month.
so, since there's one more on the agenda, Chris, why don't you just thunder away here?
142.12, plans must be classified as preliminary or final plans. This is a preliminary final application, so it's combining both. Any objections to that waiver?
I would prefer to see final plans separated. I think it gives an opportunity to, members of the public might see it, look into it again. We discussed this at the last one as well, how my feelings on that. I would prefer.
And my own feeling about, in light of the fact that this is really part of a much larger campus that we've reviewed a number of times, I'm okay with this as a waiver.
See, my only thing is, I mean, there was a plan in 2008 that was a dozen years before it came on here. Well, so I haven't, and
I understand.
more supervisors after that as well, which gives us all that extra, especially with new supervisors. That's my take.
And we, just, we did go through, I believe it was 3 planning commission. So we, we were rushing through this.
Are there any other objections?
Yeah.
142.13B, sheet size shall be 24 by 36. You have a larger sheet size due to the size of your plan, 30 by 42. Well, as engineer and the county don't care. I don't think I care. Anybody else care?
Recorder fees will accept.
Yep. 142.33A, clear site triangles of 300 feet for proposed driveways. This seems like a flashback to the previous application. We're providing a waiver request to allow a 300 by 75 foot clear site triangle as recommended by the engineer. Any issues? Thank you. 142.35C1, sidewalks, curbs, storm sewers be added along all existing and proposed parking lots. Waiver is requested for the curb along requirements since the existing proposed parking areas were designed to sheet flow for stormwater as a best management practice. Any issue? Everybody? Okay, anybody? Nope.
Sounds good.
142.26E and 142.41 sidewalk shared use paths, curbs and storm sewers to be added along Skip Back Creek Road. A waiver is requested for those areas. I would only ask that, at least in my opinion, that should be a deferral rather than a waiver.
Because we talked about it often at the planning commission. Skip Back Creek Road, there is no improvement along Skip Back Creek Road. It's on the far side, far away. Planning commission did not have any objection to no improvements being along that side. It could be deferred if and when they do anything on that side. Wamble Road is the deferral for curb and sidewalk. And along Fretch Road, they are providing sidewalk along the frontage up into their main access way. And then there just isn't enough room along the detention basin further up. Thanks, Mike. So they had no objection to that being a waiver.
I would only say I understand that they're not doing anything over on Skip Back Creek Road. And I don't believe a deferral in any way hurts them at all, because if they ever come in again, we can address it. Or if we get a grant for a path along Skip Back Creek Road or something along that line, I'd like the option to get it. I'm not looking to do the improvements at this time. It's just a deferral of that, just like we are on Wamble Road. I'm not sure. It's slightly a difference without a distinction. It just gives us rights in the future that shouldn't overly harm you. We don't have any plans currently, but I don't like to give up those rights unless we absolutely have to. I understand maybe on Fretch Road because of site constraints, but otherwise I would prefer that to be a deferral. Anybody else?
I'm okay with deferral too. I know, working on the trails committee,
We
we're surprised sometimes the connection they might do. You never know.
Just to clarify, Nestro.
No. A waiver legally, we can't come back and ask you for it. Deferral, we can. Okay?
But even with the page in the beginning of the meeting, go back.
We got a deferral of one, but didn't on the other. We should have, and who knows where we'll be, 10 years from now. So.
And just to clarify, in this letter and the request, it refers to Skip Back Creek Road. However, I would like to discuss add on that portion of Fretz where it's.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
and that'll be clarified in the resolution then, but I think, at least my feeling is I would prefer to see deferral of Skip Creek Road, deferral of anything that's not completed on Wambold Road, deferral of what's not done on Frets Road, except for the section where the basin would prohibit you from doing it at that point, and that would be the only waiver request. Is everybody okay with that?
With the 309 connector, when that's done, is that going to change the layout possibly as well?
So part of our, part of the review was to complete a study, for the completion of the 309 connector, because at this time, the traffic volume information on the 309 connector is very not accurate or available to us for them to do an appropriate study. So once the phase 2 is completed and phase 3 is completed, which is roughly about 6 years away, we would expect the traffic post study to be done, capture all of the current data and determine if any adjustments need to be made as a result of their site traffic, whether it's on the intersection or potentially a later. But for now, everything operates acceptably. It's really just a capture.
That requirement about the traffic study is going to be on the plan, a note on the plan.
And both in the
All three belt suspenders and another belt.
Good. All right, moving on, 142.39 maximum permitted lawn slope, 41 in the basin. We've talked about this 3-to-1 would be the appropriate one. Michelle, you have no issues?
And that's not specifically a basin,
It's just lawn area. You're maintaining it, I'm not cutting it. Okay. Everybody good with that? Planning, 142.42 D2A, planning island shall be 10 by 20. A waiver is requested from the planning island lanes requirements. Does not match the required parking space length of 18 feet. Everybody good with that? And is that something we are looking at as a, okay, thank you. 142.43 and 142 attachment 7, follow attachment 7 planning list. Oh, I'm not going to read the plant listings, although blank and blank plantings are not included in the current approved planning list. They were originally allowed to install with the original headquarters project waiver is requested. Are these still native plantings or are they non-native plantings? Is that why they're not included any longer?
They are non-native.
Sorry, the juniper's native, yeah. I believe the.
The other one's the red twig.
Yeah, that's.
Dogwood. Yeah,
Both-
junipers and dogwoods.
Okay, but they're some native plants, they're not, okay, they're not anything other than, we've just removed them from our planning list. For any reason, Michael?
I was not around.
Well, and this is to keep consistency with your plan.
Yes.
Okay, I'm fine with anybody.
That's good.
142.45 stabilization of graded and disturbed areas of the site with sodding and ground cover. This section requires disturbed areas up to 10% slope to be seeded, areas of 10 to 20 be sodden, areas over 20% slope to be covered with ground cover. Waivers requested to allow suitable seed mix and erosion control matting in lieu of sodding and ground cover requirement. All right. LSTES 107.2D and 107.5A minimum 18-inch diameter storm sewer requirement, minimum of 15-inch for conveyance pipes and 8 inches for the roof trench inside stairwell laterals. Okay. LSTES 107.6A requirement to use RCP pipe material for all site storm sewer, and they requested another waiver for HDP for internal.
It's
NCMP which is a PennDOT product. But may I ask, is the RCP versus HDP being addressed when we do a review of this? Meaning that we sort of allow either rather than. But outside of that township, so it's not a waiver, then it's out. Fine. Yeah. All right, anybody have any objections to anything we just discussed?
Number 9,
The suitable seed mix and erosion control matting?
yeah, as long as the erosion control matting is maintained, and then before we get the vegetation growth, and the water waste gotta be replaced by. And maybe say that. Because that doesn't.
Sure.
That's all I.
Sounds good. Thank you for your.
Thanks
for coming.
Thanks, Dominic. We're happy you're expanding in our community.
All right, next up, letter F, 285 Maple Avenue. Parking lot preliminary / final land development discussion of waivers. You ready to say yellow?
Good evening.
Good evening.
CEO, Hamburg Reuben Mullen Maxwell, I'm here to talk about expanding in your community. Just like your previous applicant.
I'm about to work.
You're just gonna go through the waiver request on this one?
Yeah, you have the revised list that shows 6.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. I'm gonna add 7.
That's all well.
Preliminary final, we missed that.
Okay, so we'll hit that at the end then. So this is just the parking lot expansion of the Sips and Berries, commonly known as Sips and Berries property. We had talked about this when they came through before. If they needed more parking, there's a space to go. This is what they're doing now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hoping that your parking ordinance revision catches up to us because we're one shy in order to occupy that back building. So we're just gonna move forward with the parking lot expansion and hoping that you guys catch up.
Very good.
It's on the way.
I had to pitch it while I was standing here. Sure.
All right. Yeah. Waiver requested from section 142 to 42D, parking lot landscaping. Proposed parking lot is in a currently screened with vegetation on the perimeter of the property. Some additional landscaping will be provided. This, Michelle, anybody have any issue on that, planning commission? It is in a wooded area in the back. Anybody have any issue here?
Planning Commission recommended all these waivers.
Very good. I'm gonna try to move this fast because I see a young lady in the back that probably doesn't want to be at a township meeting.
There's more kids that.
A waiver is requested from section 14239B1 to permit grading closer than 5 feet to the property line. This is one small area of the site along the eastern property line. The grading is placed within 5 feet. I don't see any issue with that.
We can stay on your side.
No issue. Waiver is requested from LSTES 1075 to permit storm pipe sizes of 12 and 15 inch or 18 inches required. Hydraulic calculations supported, no problem. Is that also being addressed at all? Or are we going to leave 18 inch and always ask this as a waiver? Or are we going to do it at the discretion of the engineer at some point? Okay. Because I mean, with the new BMPs and the other requirements we have, this is going to be consistent, especially smaller facilities on properties like this. Especially if they're not dedicated. Yeah. It's per your review, but yeah. Yeah. Just as a thought. A waiver is requested from section 142.35.5 to permit 19 by 18 parking spaces where 10 by 20 spaces are required. This is consistent with the existing site's parking spaces and in conformance with typical industry standards. So this parking space would have to be 10 by 20, but the Almac one could have been 9 by 18. They asked,
Condition, this one they're asking for the size with.
but is that,
Correct me if I'm wrong, because. That's what they have.
Right.
yeah,
that's what
I'm
we
just
have.
saying, you seem to have varying degree. I have no problem with the waiver myself.
I know there's obviously a great place like this, you're gonna have a lot of minivans, stuff like that. So my concern might be for the size back in town. You know, how many have in there, where people would need to maneuver, but.
They were open for a season and they've had no issues. And we have 9 by 18s now. They seem to be working fine. Why add additional impervious if we don't need it? So we just want to do what we have.
The aisles of the drive aisles are the same.
No problem. No problem.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue, especially when you're in a village, like more of a villagey area, you start over expanding some of these areas, it becomes a little bit too big with impervious and other things as well. So I understand your comment. I drive one of those and I do understand it, but
Let's think about the amount of traffic and
I don't think
pedestrians.
I'm comfortable with 9 by 18.
I think the 9 by 18 is fine. I mean, Steph, you see it all over the place. And it does lessen the impervious. I prefer that aspect, you know, provided we don't create another issue.
As long as Joe doesn't pull in his. Big old cabinet. Spaces. A waiver is requested from section 142.35C to permit partial sidewalk and curbing for the proposed improvements. Sidewalk cannot be provided adjacent to the parking areas due to the topography. I would imagine it's the same spot where you're grading within 5 feet of the property.
Well, we have sidewalk here to here, but we don't have sidewalk along the back
Okay,
here because we'd have to take trees down. This is all wood.
right, yeah,
So what people will do, they're not going to walk to the front of their car to get on the sidewalk anyway. They're going to walk down the middle. They can get on this sidewalk and come right to the door. We have sidewalk along the frontages. The curbing we have on the bottom end, just not the top end, so the stormwater can flow. And we have landscaping between the building and the other parking that's existing.
do you have any issues with that? Waiver from section 142.40 to permit 6-inch curb reveal as opposed to requiring 8-inch reveal. In this case, a 6-inch reveal is adequate and appropriate for the site.
All internal.
Very good.
And then number 7, preliminary and final.
And you prefer to see this as preliminary and final,
Reviewed that one, so I don't.
Mr. Shell, that would have to be coming as part of that, Mr. Shelley, I'll bring it up to you.
I'd rather see it. I'd rather not see that. One thing too, I know with the, back to the first waiver there, I was driving actually in the park yesterday. I do know we have green area around. Do you have any plans to put more green in there at all? Because we are in the village, we want to keep it, we don't want it to look just like a parking lot, even when it's not intended, so.
Well, it is winter, so you might not be seeing as green as it would be.
No, fair enough. I mean, I don't want it to look like a.
But you said you're adding additional landscaping,
Yeah.
right?
Not in the.
Right. So the sight lines through the parking lot would be more screening with that.
Thank you.
Good,
Goodbye.
thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Good evening. Ryan, you're too young to move that way.
All right, moving on to item G, your new business, 610 Little Rock Station Way. Conditional use for accessory building authorization to advertise for that conditional use hearing.
I would make a motion to authorize the hearing.
It's moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Let's have it. All right, next up. H, 2023 bituminous pavement base repair contract authorization to advertise. This is a,
Public Works Director, yesterday, this is what we'll do prior to the Cape Seal program that we started a couple of years ago, so we'll go through and repair any sections of roadway prior to going through the final Cape Sealing program.
we're gonna hire a contractor to do basically.
Yes.
Provided we operate this too.
If any members of the public would like to see that, hopefully in a few weeks, they can go on YouTube to watch that.
Great.
Yes. See it firsthand.
A very good use of that. I would make a motion to approve the authorization of advertising for the 2023 bituminous pavement base repair contract.
All right, so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and second, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nice have it. Letter I, this is the 2023 pavement markings contract, which is a joint contract with Franconia Township and the authorization to advertise.
Joe, can I just quickly, are we, usually in a situation like this, in a joint contract, someone is managing it. Are we the managing entity for that contract?
Yes, we are.
They just
Other
provided their
contractors
footage.
that Franconia manages that we jointly with. And each managing their-
But when we manage it, they still bill Franconia directly for their portion of that contract. Perfect.
Economy of scale.
Yep, I like it, like the shared use. I would authorize make a motion to authorize the advertising of the 2023 pavement marking contract jointly with Franconia Town.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and second, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nice have it. Letter J, sale of the 1982 Clark, Michigan wheel loader via municipal bid. Recommendations to reject the highest bid. Well, I guess it's all bids really for what was
Reject all bids.
Yes.
Sleeping thing.
The highest bidder was not responsible, therefore we did not sell the loader. We're gonna
The
re-advertise.
next guy didn't want it.
Those words, we did try, so. I need a motion to reject all.
Let me just ask, should we make that motion to reject all bids and then also at this time, should we just authorize the rebidding of that at a time and place as directed by you and Jeff?
It could be.
Very good. I would make a motion to reject the.
They'll make another agenda.
Go shorter.
We appreciate it.
Yes, I would make a motion to motion to recommend the rejection of the all bids for the sale of the 1982 Clark, Michigan wheel loader. And further authorize the township manager to rebid that same product at a future date on municipal bids.
Motion. So you made a motion?
I made that motion.
Moved and second.
Kevin seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nice have
I think it should be noted that Doug pointed out that that user is banned from the website. It's on that again.
Anybody watch the meeting in the future on YouTube, It's only been driven by a little old lady back and forth to church, and
Years and waxed every weekend.
Okay,
we may have bought this when you were still on the port, and it's.
letter K, traffic signal and street light maintenance contract authorization to enter into agreement.
I'd make a motion to authorize entering into an agreement with Higgins and Son for the street light and traffic light maintenance for the terms of the contract. I would note that this is a 3-year contract and they're holding their prices for the length of that contract, which in this inflationary age is a nice place to be.
Very spectacular. So I have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. So, at this point in the meeting, we open the floor again to a discussion period. If anyone wish to be recognized.
All I would note is that with the advent of Mr. Krauss living on this board, our meeting is going to be longer than anyone.
But welcome again. It's great to have you. There's way fewer puns though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an unfortunate occurrence.
If I may, I'd like to just say that having Mr. Garrity here really brought back a lot of good memories.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
You may be the only person who said that about me.
So take note. Joe, do we need an executive session this evening?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
All right, we do not. At this point in the meeting, we move item number 11 to Mr. Garrity.
Move we adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Been the tradition for longer. I didn't get to vote on.
Very good. Good to see you, Mr. Gifford.
And he's not even putting you on.
That's not Mr. Gifford, that's Joe Citizen.
Welcome aboard, Ken. Well done. You'll do well.
So you're gonna be here for all our meetings?
Nope.
Want to make sure Ken got.
They're way too long.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you all for the warm welcome.
Good luck.
Yeah. Wait.
It's a blast. Yeah.